So this strange sound is from an unknown cosmonaut in space, picked up by the Italian Giudice Cordelia brothers, using their infamous radios that they used to spy on the Soviet Union. The sounds we hear are allegedly from an unknown cosmonaut slowly dying out in space, as all you can hear is heavy breathing and a dying heartbeat. What this is rather unknown. Was it just them recording Yuri Gagarin, or was this something grander? The February incident, as it's called, in 1961, have sparked what is known as the Lost Soviet Cosmonaut Theory, stating that some communists went missing in space as the start of the Soviet space program, which as talked about before was rather shabby. Some say that the cosmonaut got catapulted away from the spaceship and flew away from orbit, still flying in space to this day, and his last moments were unknowingly caught by two Italian brothers. Well, as it's been proven, no, it's been debunked. Shame. Would've been cool, but niet. Another historic moment. What you're hearing is the first ever recorded audio tape ever, back in 1853. It's the voice of Adolf Giacomelli, but what he is saying is not really something you will be able to pick up by simply listening. And that might not be the plan, as they were trying it out, slowly trying to make better audio over the years. And look where we are. From that to this. Still shit, but it's got somewhere, you know. Despite the name, this station doesn't actually play music, or backwards music for that sake, but what has been said to sound similar to the singing of a whale. From as early as 2001, although apparently that's when the signal started to decline, a strange broadcast could be found that is believed to be some complex form of communication or feedback from naval transmitters. This signal has been noted as coming from England and the United States, so it wouldn't be so strange if it was a special form of communication between the two, but this hasn't been confirmed to be true. Regardless, whoever's behind it must have some notable equipment in order to broadcast this across the pond. So more interesting sound from outer space. Oh, I love these. One of the NASA Voyagers have captured the sounds of dense plasma in outer space and have used it to understand space even more. As scientists have proven, this sound has a rising tone, constantly increasing in the same manner. It is surely creepy, because outer space and its silence is very creepy, especially when we just captured outer space screeching at us. Upsweep is an unidentified sound detected on the American NOAA's Equatorial Autonomous Hydrophone Arrays. It is consistent for a long time of narrow band upsweeping sounds of several seconds in duration each. The source level is high enough to record throughout the Pacific. Really, this could be anything, and we don't even know what it is. There's a lot of theories what it might be, like a volcano they accidentally recorded, or the deep seas, or a third or a fourth thing. Timothy Treadwell is what we describe as an idiot with a big heart. Treadwell was a bear enthusiast who would spend his time in Alaska around grizzly bears in hopes of protecting them. He got rather close to them personally, which seems to be his downfall, as he might have forgotten the fact that he lived among wild grizzly bears and not people. Him and his girlfriend got fatally attacked by the grizzly bears, which almost ate them whole. It was recorded on a video for the world to see.
You will probably scream a lot, and that is exactly what I want you to do. It's what turns me on.
David Parker Ray, also known as the Toy Box Killer, was a suspected serial killer, rapist, kidnapper, and torturer from New Mexico. He would trap his victims in what he called his little toy box, where he would torture his victims and want to scream as a kind of sexual pleasure. Eventually, one of his victims escaped, and after that, Ray's spree of sexual torture was over. Before he went on to do his acts, he would play this audio recording to them as a kind of introduction to what he was going to do to them right after. Now we do actually have some audio from the First World War, like the signing of the armistice, where their guns went silent, or some random footage of some soldiers, yet we don't really have some real sound from the near year-long battle of Verdun. There are some edits, yet the real footage is not to be found. So we all know about the Chernobyl disaster, where a Soviet nuclear power plant broke down after a failed test spewed radioactive material throughout a lot of Europe. It was quite the dramatic scene, with the entire surrounding being evacuated for their own safety. The Chernobyl workers did call for help during the emergency, which is what we can hear here. In 1975, the exorcism of Anneliese Michel began. The young German woman had been suffering from what she and her parents believed was possession since the age of 16. The 7-year-long possession caused Anneliese to have convulsions, seizures, hallucinations, and to hear voices. Eventually, she began to walk away from religious objects and locations, cementing the idea that the devil was inside her for her family. The exorcism of Michelle is quite the scary thing to read about, since it really sounds like a real-life version of The Exorcist, especially with that German accent.
Jefferson County 911. Yes, I'm a teacher at Columbine High School.
The Columbine school shooting rocked the world as 2 students, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, went into the building and opened fire on innocent kids and teachers, killing a lot of people and injuring even more. There was some 911 calls to the police so the school could be secured. One of the more popular ones from Patty Nielsen, a teacher from the school who hid in the library with many other kids from the school. In the call, you can hear her stressing out, telling the kids to keep their heads down, while also giving information to the 911 dispatcher, while shots can be heard in the background. Sadly for Patty and the kids, the library was where Eric and Dylan committed the worst of their shooting spree. Quakers or bioduck is a weird sound coming from the oceans, again, detected by Soviet submarines. It was a weird noise which couldn't really be explained. Yet, as it seems, after the US's National Oceanic and Atmospherical Administration concludes, the noise came from whales in the ocean. Nothing more. In the Forest Grove neighborhood in Oregon, USA, strange metallic screeching can be heard throughout the entire area and has been reported by almost everyone in the community. The screeching is so loud that it's keeping people up at night. But what is it? No one knows, and we are not even an inch closer to finding the source of it, according to police. While some say it's a broken air conditioner, nothing official has been released, sparking a huge mystery in the area. Okay, so I know that EASs are supposed to get the attention of people, but I don't really know what went through the heads of the New Zealand officials when they thought that this weird noise was a good idea. Well, it does get my attention, but it also gave me a headache, and it doesn't really scream, hey, there's an emergency in the area, since it's slightly wacky. Man, I love it when the audio is copyrighted. Really makes me love YouTube so much that I can't contain it. Haha. Threnody of the Victims of Hiroshima is a song by Prenedict which is supposed to give the feeling of suspense and creepiness. And to be honest, it sounds like the background music to an Indiana Jones movie. Well, you can't hear it, but it's true.
Good morning, have a good day. Hi, what's your number again, please? 8695.
Melissa Dewey was another victim of the 9/11 attack in the World Trade Center in New York City. In her 911 call, you can hear how she feels like she's dying and is stuck on the 83rd floor of the building. She died as the second tower collapsed along with the rest of the people in the building.
125?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to step.
I'm sorry?
Back in 2009, Chris Lastrella and his family went for a drive in their Toyota when their pedal became stuck for some unknown reason. The car kept driving at top speed and Chris couldn't stop it. He called 911 in a last-ditch effort to get some help, but the call only lasted 17 seconds. The car crashed into another car and after that went airborne off the road and crashed into a dry riverbed, killing the entire family on the spot. The call is the last moments of their lives. Well, to be fair, the voice of Hitler is not really that scary. If you dig down the history of the many war crimes during the war, then yes, it becomes scary. Yet the simple voice of Hitler as a politician, making interviews and speeches is not really scary. So some people find gongs and chimes scary, or at least uncomfortable. I see how it could scare some people in the right setting, but mostly I think they're kind of relaxing. It's the kind of music I would put in the background while I read a book or try to sleep. I guess it is more the way in which they're used that can be scary than just the gongs and chimes in themselves. But again, the right moment can make most things scary. So this is a long story on the Ask Reddit subreddit where people will ask, what is the creepiest thing that has ever actually happened to you? The top comment from BingBong1234 tells a story of someone stalking him ever since he was a little boy who would always whistle at him when he got near. He would be about 29 years of age today, but the strange whistling started from when he was only 8 years old. Still to this day, he doesn't know why he can suddenly hear people whistle at him and people around him, only ever seeing the figure in a dark place where no face could be seen. And just to prove the story, he has video footage as well, which shows it right here. Is it fake? Is it real? Is this the whistling of a strange creep, or simply a guy thinking he's something special? Maybe I'll dig deeper down this rabbit hole in a later video.
Listen, there's a naked man on the Matanzas Causeway at the end of the car.
So first off, Florida, okay? Okay. So back in 2012, a guy called Rudy Eugene beat a homeless man unconscious, slowly took off his clothes, and began to eat the man alive. He was apparently so high on bath salts that he thought eating another man alive would be a good idea. So both in the way that he ate the man's face, leaving the poor guy blind since he ate one of his eyeballs and damaging the other, and the fact that he looked unnatural without the bath salt in his body, led to him being called the Miami Zombie. Bystanders called the police, saying that a man was eating another man totally naked. Eugene was later shot by police to death. The bus bomb, also known as the V-1 flying bomb in German, Vertungswaffen, sorry I couldn't help myself, was one of the first cruise missiles in use ever and was made by Nazi Germany on the Blitz of London. While being used as a bombing weapon, it was also a kind of psychological weapon, as the engine would be extremely loud and could be heard around most of London. Yet the engine would suddenly stop before landing on its target and exploding, giving suspense throughout the entire city, as they didn't know where the bomb would land. While this just might sound like a normal peaceful bird song, as it is, this is indeed the last cool male bird ever known, calling for a mate which will never come. This is the last we've ever heard of the species, which is now extinct forever. It is slowly calling out for a partner which will never come. Imagine that, being the only one left on the entire planet, calling out for help, calling out for a partner, never to be accompanied, to die alone, not knowing that you were the last of its kind.
Can we read that on a scale? Yes, sir. We're now on the 5-10 scale.
In December 2008, 1980, the Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt led a patrol to investigate an alleged UFO landing site in the eastern edge of Rendlesham Forest, England, and also made an audio tape recording of the incident. There were a lot of sightings in the area, both as civilians, RAF and USAF pilots, of UFOs and other strange activities in the areas. It was also an air base, so that might explain some of it. It is not known what actually happened that night, but there is audio from an expedition into the woods around Rendlesham to see what is going on.
Cleveland County 911.
I don't know if I should have called this in or not.
So a guy in North Carolina claimed to have seen Bigfoot and rang 911 because he was confused on what to do. He was in a bit of a dilemma where he didn't know if he should kill Bigfoot or let Bigfoot go, which led to him ringing to 911. It's not really scary, and it's just some redneck who thinks they've seen Bigfoot, which he didn't, because Bigfoot doesn't exist. So this is kind of a natural eerie sound you can hear in New York City as the One World Trade Center pushes in the wind in a weird way, making this kind of sound. Dark and ominous. Just what you want to hear in the dark corners of New York City.
TV40 presents what is believed to be a television first. In living color, exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide.
On the morning of July 15th, 1974, TV host and TV presenter Christine Shabak shot herself live on television after a long struggle with the TV industry and her inner demons. This footage rocked the world and how TV was presented, as many people saw her take her own life right in their own living room. It was, of course, recorded and is quite the scary thing alone, so imagine how it was when she suddenly just pulled the trigger live on air. Her finishing words were, "We are presenting what is believed to be a television first, in living color and exclusive coverage of an attempted suicide."
My mommy and daddy are having a fight.
So another heartbreaking 911 call on this list. This time it's a 6-year-old girl called Lisa Floyd who is calling 911 to get the police to stop a fight between her mother and stepfather, which is more or less a father abusing the family. You can really hear the trauma and horror in her voice as the family gets torn apart. This wasn't the first time Lisa called the police as a child, and many years later, even as an adult, she has found herself in abusive homes. Sadly, some people are just stuck in that loop forever. So some animals, including raccoons, can get rabies, which makes them twitch, make strange noises, and get foam around their mouth. These sounds can be scary as the raccoon is in huge pain, as can be seen, and the twitching seems unnatural to some. So Roro-chan was a 14-year-old girl living in Japan who was obsessed with becoming a legend, as she said herself, wanting to be popular on YouTube by making videos, but had a lot of trouble in her ways. Man, I feel you, dude. She eventually became desperate while chasing success, leading to her doing dangerous stunts like jumping out in front of cars. Eventually, she couldn't take it anymore and filmed herself jumping off a balcony to her death in hopes that it would make her popular. The fall killed her instantly, yet idiotically enough, it did work and she did become well known for it a few years later. This might sound weird, but I hate the fact that it actually worked, since that is a very dangerous way of looking at the world. Back in 2017, two teenagers called Libby and Abby went on a hike through Carroll County through the Delphi Historic Trails in Indiana while filming themselves for their Instagrams, having a nice day in the woods. Of course, it didn't end well as it's an Iceberg video. Nothing on here is great, and everything on here is gruesome and horrifying. The two teens went missing and was later found dead in the same woods, while the killer is still on the loose to this very day. Luckily for the police, they could use the Instagram films for the two girls to try and get the lead on the killer, yet it didn't work as well as intended. The only thing they could get out of it was the man that allegedly had followed them, but we're not really sure. In one of the clips, a faint "down the hill" can be heard, which is thought to be the voice of the killer. So when searching for this, you get sent to an Arabic site which provides an MP4 of a kid drowning among others. The top one of these was a video from America where 3 swimming teachers nearly missed a kid drowning in the pool, luckily surviving, yet still becoming unconscious as they tried to swim and failed. The EVP of the child is supposedly of a child drowning, with another voice being heard saying, "I can hear you, help." It's quite strange, and I can't really find more information about it because it's Arabic and I'm not Muslim, so I don't know what it says. A lot of people on the video do say it's false though, and I do believe them because it's only a voice file and that could easily be corrupted.
Don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it.
Paul Michael Stefani, also known as the weepy-voiced killer, was a serial killer in America who killed 3 people and tried to kill 2 others. What was special about Stefani was that he would call 911 right after he had killed someone, saying that he was sorry and couldn't stop himself, all whilst crying or trying hard not to cry. This is also why he's been called the weepy-voiced killer. He was later caught and sent to prison, where he spent the rest of his life before dying of lung cancer. BLC-1, short for Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1, is a candidate city radio signal detected and observed during April and May 2019, approximately coming from the solar system's nearest star, Proxima Centauri. This is the modern WOW signal, a strange radio signal from space to Earth. But since the last was a microwave, this might also be something fishy, but we still don't know for sure. The ping is a strange audio phenomenon in northern Canada, which is not only quite strange, but has also acted as an annoyance to the hunters in the area, as it scares animals away. Although the source of the audio is unknown, it is thought to be a nearby mining corporation making these sounds. If not, it might just be another bloop, which again, might be an iceberg. In Yellowstone National Park, whispers can be heard coming from above the lakes of the area, which apparently sounds like wind. So maybe it's wind. How can that not be wind? If it sounds like wind and is coming from above, then I'm pretty sure it's wind. Well, anyways, it's creeping people out and we don't exactly know what it is. Wind, but still. So in Kazakhstan, Oman, and other places, a natural phenomenon can take place which is called singing sand dunes. While it is scary to walk through the desert only to let the ground hum at you, it's merely air moving through a vibration vocal cord forming in the sand, coming out as noise, kind of like what human noise is. Lawrence Sigmund Bigtaker and Roy Lewis Norris, also known as the Toolbox Killers, were 2 American serial killers and rapists who kidnapped, raped, tortured and killed 5 teenage girls in Southern California over a period of 5 months in 1979. A bit like the Shoebox Killer, the 2 recorded himself torturing one of the victims, Shiley Lifford, which originally lasted for 20 minutes, yet the clip here only lasts 1 because of public reasons. In the clip, you can hear Lifford screaming in pain as she's getting tortured by one of them, which was used in trial against both of them. After being asked what he thought of the audio, Bigtaker only said it was just pillow talk, as it was nothing more than foreplay to him. When Titanic sank in the Atlantic Ocean, it sent a final distress call to another boat in hopes that it would sail over and save some of the passengers. The message is, in sense, the final words of the boat. It's not really that scary and is simply Morse code, yet the thought of it being the final words of Titanic could be quite scary. Exploding head syndrome, also known as EHS, is an abnormal sensory perception during sleep in which a person experiences unreal noises that are loud and of short duration, when falling asleep or waking up. The noise might be frightening, typically occurs only occasionally, and is not a serious health concern, so don't call your doctor about it. The sound can be kind of creepy and especially shocking, and should sound like one's head exploding.
Oh, my friends come from that as well, and we both like.
These Enfield poltergeist voice recordings feature the alleged poltergeist referred to as Bill responding to various questions with the body of an 11-year-old Janet Hutchinson. The gruff voice became synonymous with the case. Skeptics believe that Janet was simply disguising her voice, while others saw it as proof that he was possessed. It is in essence a possession of a poltergeist, but it could also be fake. Is it though? That's up for you to decide. I can't bother. The Apollo 1, not to be confused with the Apollo 11, was one of NASA's first space flights, but sadly also one of their biggest failures. On January 27, 1967, a fire consumed the interior cockpit of the command module of the Apollo 1 manned space vehicle. All 3 astronauts died in that same moment. In the audio file, you can hear the talk between the 3 astronauts and headquarters, and already before the fire starts, the 3 astronauts seem to not be happy about the state of the mission.
How are we gonna get the moon? We can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings.
Later on, the fire occurs, and the crew tries to escape, but can't. All 3 die in the cockpit from flames, smoke, and lack of oxygen. Copyright. Breakthrough is actually a book, and this is the audio recording of the same book. A bit like Swedish Rhapsody, it's a collection of strange sounds and noises. The audio is about the alternative universes and the afterlife, but it's not really that scary. The author, Konstantin Rudev himself, is a more of an interesting person, wanting to study about the afterlife and fleeing the Soviet Union, but the audio itself is not that scary.
It was very strange and not very clear.
In 1980, William O'Neill constructed an electronic audio device called the Spiricom. O'Neill claimed that the device was built to specifications which he received from George Mueller, a scientist who died 6 years previously. At Washington, D.C. press conference on April 6, 1982, O'Neill stated that he was able to hold two-way conversations with spirits through the Spiricom device and provided the design specification to researchers for free. There has therefore been a lot of audio which some claim is a conversation between the living and the dead. Now, it might be fake. Actually, it is fake and debunked, but some of the tapes made by O'Neill are allegedly conversations between him and a ghost that is right beside him. It isn't, but still, very scary if you let it be scary. The colossi of Memnon are two giant statues of the former pharaoh of ancient Egypt called Amenhotep during the 18th dynasty, which today is but another great monument from the time. However, some say that these statues used to sing during sunrise. These statues allegedly made a high-pitched noise which both the Romans and Greeks found fascinating. Both said that this was Eos, the mother of Amenhotep, who was grieving over the son's death, even though she too is dead, and he died like some thousands of years ago. Henry McCabe was a Liberian man who went missing in 2015 after having spent a night out with some friends. McCabe did make a final phone call to his wife, Karine, which was unlike most phone calls. The phone call was allegedly McCabe running, screaming, and moaning in pain. The call stops with an unknown "stop it," which ends the phone call. Who actually said "stop it" is not known, but many think it was whoever killed McCabe. Later that year, McCabe was found dead in Rush Lake by a kayaker who reported it to the police. McCabe had died without no bodily trauma, and the autopsy report reported that he accidentally drowned, probably getting so drunk during the night that he went to the lake, fell in, and drowned. Others say he was drugged and thrown into the lake by strangers. Yet, how did that explain the phone call? Was he drowning? And what about the mysterious starboard sound? Another mystery to the list. So Mexico has a bit of a problem with drug cartels, which has led to the Mexican drug war of today. An internal struggle between drug cartels and the government, which has led to a lot of casualties on both sides. These casualties also include executions from both sides. Some have been recorded and are somewhere on the web.
He cut me
Who cut you?
downstairs. I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
Responded to.
Hang on.
911 calls are a good way to observe the horrors and terrible people of this world. In 2015, Michelle Wilkins, a 7-month pregnant woman, called 911 after she's been stabbed in Colorado by a man using broken glass, whereafter they cut open the woman and took the unborn fetus out of the woman. This was all during a meeting where Wilkins had been summoned by the attacker since she wanted to buy baby clothing from the unborn child on Craigslist. It was a trap and she fell right in.
Emergency 911. Help me, my brother's dead.
So this is a real 911 call where a 10-year-old girl found her brother dead in their house by suicide. It's really a heartbreaking video where you can hear that the little girl is scared and horrified as expected. It really shows that suicide brings a lot of pain to the people around you, especially when you do it when your 10-year-old sister is in the house. While we know the video is real, the audio is quite hard to find since YouTube isn't fond of this kind of stuff. So in South Africa, an illegal speed race was going on until it went horribly wrong. One of the vehicles in the race lost control of the car and crashed, with basically crushing the car like a can of soda. There is both footage outside and inside the car, which shows two different points of view. While the driver actually survived, he did get heavily injured. Also, don't do illegal speed racing, it's very dumb. The whooping cough, also known as pertussis, is a bacterial infection that gets into your nose and throat and can easily be spread to other people around you, and is mostly found in small children. It's quite a dangerous disease as you begin to cough uncontrollably, eventually leaving you without room to breathe. It does give the same feeling you get when your grandma coughs a bit too longer than expected, when your family begins to look around at each other thinking that something might be wrong. So schizophrenic hallucinations is not really something you can hear yourself, but it can only be heard by those who have schizophrenic hallucinations. One of the many effects of schizophrenia is audio hallucinations, which can tell you many things. It could be anything from a noise that just wasn't there, to a voice speaking to you saying what to do, like killing people. I think I did cover this in a previous video. It is still fascinating to think about what people can hear during these hallucinations. So on Twitter, someone posted what sounds like a horrific scream in the Yellowstone National Park area from an unknown woman. It sounds like she's in some kind of mortal danger, yet we don't know what it is at all. It could be someone being attacked, but it could also just be an animal like the others on this list. Another huge mystery which we don't really know anything about. Another one, there's a lot of those actually. The Georgia Execution Tapes is an hour-long public special hosted by Ray Sararis, featuring excerpts of recordings made in Georgia's death house during state executions. This broadcast is the first time a national audience is able to hear what takes place during a state-sponsored execution. In these clips, you can hear the final moments of those who is going to be executed, their final prayers, and their final statements.
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello?
So this is quite a mysterious 911 call between the emergency center and Brandon Lawson. It is the last we ever heard of Lawson, who went missing right after. What we know is that Lawson drove on Highway 277 and ran out of gas right after he called his brother for help and later 911. When his brother arrived at the scene, Lawson was nowhere to be seen. His car was in fine condition, of course, without gas, yet no major damage at the car was found, yet the keys and phone was gone along with Lawson. Combining that with the 911 call, it makes a lot of questions pop up. When you slow the audio of the 911 call down, you can not only understand Lawson a bit more, but another man can be heard saying yes when the dispatcher asks if there is need for an ambulance, while Lawson says no. There are also potential gunshots and a faint "help me" from Brandon, which might be heard in the background. He is still gone to this day and we don't know what has happened to him. This call is the biggest clue we have and it has gone us nowhere.
I mean, that was fun for people not to know who she really is. She thought she was getting away with something.
Buyer's Market is an hour-long album, we can call it that, which includes no music and only audio. It is also about different scary and terrible things like Ted Bundy's killings and abuse from a young age. There are 5 parts, which are children, McMahon, trash, Bundy, and victims. Peter Sotos himself is not only a musician, but also a book writer, where he writes about the violence and criminality of all kinds, trying to show and understand the mindset of killers, rapists, and psychopaths, which is also what it shows in Buyer's Market. While it is a song, as Peter wants it to be, it's more of a short showcase of criminal activity and those behind it. Stalag or Gulag is a very sadistic heavy metal band from Germany which call their music audio terror. The names might look like nonsense, but it's actually a combination of Stalag, a German concentration camp during World War II, and GH, which stands for Global Holocaust. Their music is mostly made to hurt people and consists of screams of pain, ear-ringing noises, and all else which might give you a negative feeling in your heart. Rumors suggest that the band used a murder convict that killed his own mother at the age of 16 and a mental patient who killed himself a few months after the recording of their 2003 EP for vocals. They have an album called Project Misanthropia, which is a 35-minute long audio clip of pure pain and suffering. Just what I need to listen to while walking through the park.
Yes, ma'am. I just shot my daughter and shot all my grandkids, and I'll be sitting on my step, and then when you get here, I'm going to shoot myself.
Don Charles Spirit was a 51-year-old man from Bell, Florida, who murdered his daughter and 6 grandchildren right after he shot himself on his back steps in a murder-suicide. The reasoning for the murder-suicide is rather mysterious, yet some say that he didn't have the right state of mind, having some mental problems which he did not treat well, not taking his right medication for it, and being under the influence of some kind of illegal drugs, which led to him going rogue and killing his nearest family. This wasn't the first time he had murdered his family though, as he had accidentally shot his own son, leaving him dead and only got 3 years in jail. The 911 call is him explaining the murders, telling the police to get there and that he will kill himself when they arrive. Don't actually have a recording of this one audio clip since it's not really something you can record because it's not real. It is something that can occur during sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a feeling of being conscious but not able to move. It occurs when a person passes between the stages of wakefulness and sleep. Usually, you will see a kind of demon hovering above them or some kind of monster, which is also fading between being real and a figment of the imagination. That is a visual hallucination, however. Audio hallucinations are when you hear something that isn't there. These voices would usually follow the demons just to scare you even more, but can also occur on their own. An example, which I've experienced, I guess, is something calling your name throughout the night. You don't know what it is, you can still hear something saying your name. Other times it might just be whispers, or maybe it could even be a terrific noise. Safe to say, it can be many things, yet they're all terrifying. These last two entries of the Iceberg are both extremely hard to find and search for, probably because you actually shouldn't. Even the Iceberg says not to research, which is usually just a meme that goes, "No guys, it's real, trust me," but I do actually believe it on this one. Pseudo Scorpion is especially hard to find since it's actually gone. It can no longer be found. Pseudo Scorpion is apparently an album which seems to be a lot like Stark, in the way that it's not real music but just disturbing sounds mashed together to make some kind of creepy aura of audio. In this scenario, it's apparently child pornography and two girls one cup pushed together, which can be heard in a mix of horror-filling vibes. It's apparently also made by an unknown guy called Sinjin, whom is even more unknown than the actual video in itself. The album was a long journey through 4chan boards and the deep web and even weirder corners of the internet, which now is lost forever. Maybe for the sake of good. Dreamer Heaven is quite a mysterious and also quite covered video. Both Some Ordinary Gamer and Scare Theater have covered these, except Scare Theater removed the part where it talked about it in his video, since it was too real for him. The video itself is also very hard to find, as it originated from the deep web and has mostly been removed from YouTube. It is a real video and is 100% legit, yet it does apparently have something to do with child exploitation, and people actually don't want to share it but remove it, since it is an exploitive video, of course. The audio should be bone chilling, yet I can't really prove it since the video seems to be dead and not really one you should search for, unless you are willing to go down to the basement of the internet that is the dark web, which I don't want to. I like safety. So, now that we have discovered the darkest sounds of our time, why don't we just sit back for a minute and realize that this Earth is extremely sad and terrifying. Man. Well, I'm sad that I couldn't provide some of the entries for this list, especially the last two entries, but they are apparently either being removed or are removed entirely, which alone says that it might not be a good thing to research. And again, I'm not going down the deep web for that, it's not worth it. But don't get me wrong, this is a really good iceberg from the umbilical guy who really went down digging for some good content, so hats off to him. If you want to watch more icebergs, then there are plenty more where they came from. And if you like my style, then check out the channel, there's a lot more I do than just this. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. If you can, this audio is very depressing and I hope it didn't ruin it for you. It ruined mine, so hopefully it's not the same for you.